Assalamu alaikum. The name of the game today in the markets is election jitters. The VIX has been holding steady above 20. The good news is that the elections are tomorrow, and so we should be able to put this behind us. Let's hope if the election goes smoothly and if we have a clear winner. Otherwise, there may be a lot of volatility in the markets. That being said, there's reason to be optimistic regardless of what happens. And I'll go over that in this live. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoy these lives. And let's get started. So Tesla was down today at 242 range. Bitdeer, IOS Energy, and a lot of other Bitcoin miners took it on the chin today, down massively after they were up massively last Monday. Other names, pretty much a lot of them are in the red. We did get First Solar was up 5%, Enphase is up 4%. So solar companies were doing good today. Gold at 2,700, holding pretty steady. Bitcoin fell back down to 67.5 after having reached this $73,000 all-time high. Doge is still doing very well, very resilient at 16 cents. So while other cryptos did see a pretty big pullback, Doge did not experience the same thing. And it stands to benefit a lot, I think, if Trump wins the presidency. And I think crypto in general. So if you look at on the day, Doge was one of the few names that was up today. Everything else was in the red. If you look on the week, that's the same. And on the month, Doge was one of the biggest winners. And I really think that this crypto cycle will be defined by meme coins because I think that as investors, we have grown mature enough to the ways of the crypto world that we understand. I think most investors understand that really utility tokens are just meme tokens with longer stories to them, but they're all meme tokens, and so I think that the pure plays on memes, if you will do the best in this crypto cycle. And it's about time for the altcoins to get going here. If you look at the altcoin season index, we are at a very low level at 27. At 25, we get into Bitcoin season, basically. So we're almost at Bitcoin season, a far cry away from the 75 score needed for altcoin season. With that being said, if you look at last year, it was around November 3rd, November 4th, where altcoin season or the alts started to gain ground against Bitcoin, and then altcoin season peaked in January. So I don't think it's that far-fetched to get a repeat of that behavior this time around. It won't be exact, but maybe very similar. Now, if we go to the headline of today and basically what is controlling the markets and will be controlling the markets for at least the next 24, 48 hours, the elections. We did see a bounce back in Donald Trump's odds of winning, at least per the betting markets. So Donald Trump is back at 55 with Harris at 45. Now, this number does change based on who you're checking. So if you look at Polymarket actually has more volume than Kalshi does in terms of actual bets placed. And Trump is at 58, Harris is at 41. Now, this is a big difference compared to what the polls are saying. So if you look at the polls, for example, this side, 270 to win, it is showing Democrats in the lead. Now, there is a well-documented bias towards the Democratic Party in mainstream media, and perhaps this is impacting polling as well, wherein the people who are doing the polls, are calling their network for these poll results, and their networks happen to be more Democratic leaning. That's just one theory, although it's very hard to tell. But the money, as I showed you guys, the money is betting on a Trump victory. So we'll see. Now, there are a few states that are going to determine who wins: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. These are the swing states that are going to determine who ends up winning. And interestingly enough, Michigan and Wisconsin, they do have a large Muslim population. So the Muslim vote is actually quite important in this election. Now, I've been asked about my position. I think that both these candidates are bad, and it's a tragedy that the election has come down to these two candidates, because I think both of them are, from a character perspective, quite lacking, from an intelligence perspective, quite lacking as well, basically lacking all around. But I do think it's important to get out and vote. Even if you vote for a third-party candidate who has almost no chance of winning, that's fine, because I think that's better than not voting at all, because who voted, that is recorded. And so communities that vote end up getting catered to more than communities that don't vote. So this is my position. I think that it's important to vote. Doesn't really matter who you vote for, but it's important that you have a habit of voting, because then you become a part of a constituency that is catered to by politicians when they are running for office. At least that's my 2 cents on the position. As it relates to what Bitcoin does after a US election, I have some good news for you, which is that Bitcoin tends to rally regardless of whether Democrats or Republicans take office. So if you look at 2020, or you look at post 2016 or 2012, there's always been a pretty strong rally in Bitcoin, regardless of who gets to office. And I happen to think that, yes, Republicans in this case winning would be more bullish in the near term for Bitcoin. But over the longer run, I think that a Democratic win would end up basically supporting the thesis for Bitcoin, which is runaway spending and inflation of fiat to no end, and will also cause Bitcoin to appreciate. Now, something that will not, I think, perform the same, or an asset that will not perform the same with both candidates, are altcoins. So altcoins may actually get absolutely clobbered under a Democratic administration, and if the Democrats are to win. And they may do really well. And in fact, we may see, alt season kick off if Trump and the Republicans win. Now, as if that was not enough, we have a lot of interesting economic data that is scheduled to come out this week. The most important, I shouldn't say economic data, but economic events rather, to happen this week. Thursday, November 7th, we have the interest rate decision by the Fed. And on Friday, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. Now, if you look at the probabilities for what the Fed is going to do, basically the market is pricing in a near certainty that the Fed is going to cut interest rates by 25 basis points. And so we may have, I mean, the best case scenario this week would be something like Trump winning, at least the best case for risk assets. Trump winning in a clear-cut victory where there's no challenges to that victory, and the results being announced shortly after the election. They don't take too long to be announced. We get the 25 basis point cut, and on the heels of Trump's victory, we get China stimulus as well, because they're going to want to stimulate their economy in anticipation of some adversity that may come with a Trump administration. And because their economy right now is in quite the malaise and needs some stimulus to get things kick-started there. So if that were to happen, that would be a very bullish scenario for markets. The worst case scenario is that we don't have a clear-cut winner, and back and forth goes on for a long time, and the election results aren't announced this week even, and maybe it takes until next week. That would be the worst case scenario for markets. But I do think that nervousness about the elections will probably peak prior to the election results actually being official. So even if we get election results declared next week, we may get a peak in nervousness this week in the markets, and we'll get, sort of those jitters that the market has been suffering from flushed out of the system, inshallah. Salam Rashad, nice to see you. It's great to hear your voice back. Are you having a live tomorrow? Inshallah, I will. Yeah, and so we'll do some election coverage, inshallah. Gaming with Fahd says, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Do leave a like, guys, if you haven't left a like already. So with regards to Forex, if you're actually trading the currencies themselves and not derivatives of the currencies, I'm fine with that. But typically with Forex, you're trading derivatives of the currencies. So just contracts and not the underlying asset. That's something that I am not fine with. All right, guys, if you haven't become a PIF member yet, do become a member. Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.